Hello everybody, I hope you're doing well and welcome back to the channel. My name's Hassan and I make videos on YouTube to help rugby players improve in their skill set and improve their knowledge of the game to hopefully allow them to play at a higher level. And in today's video we're going to be looking at 5 essential tips that I would recommend to any beginner rugby player who's new to the game. And yeah, I just want to kind of share this with you guys because if I was, to rewind the clock and go back to when I started playing rugby, I would have definitely appreciated hearing some of these bits of advice when I started out. So hopefully you can take away something useful from this video and hopefully apply it to your own game, especially if you're new to the game and you really want to excel and become a better player. So yeah, right before we get into the video, I just want to say please do subscribe to the channel so you get notified when I upload videos onto YouTube, and make sure to like this video as well if you enjoy it. But with that being said guys, let's get into the video. So the first thing I want to talk about is passing. Now obviously passing is a crucial part of the game, and it's the main way of distributing the ball, and I would say the way you can lead your team to scoring points. Now I feel like a lot of beginner players, when they think about passing, they think about these very elegant and quite extreme spin passes which go maybe 30 meters across the pitch. I think that is a very specific example of a rugby pass. If you want to be successful and actually make meaningful passes in a game or in training, I'd recommend looking to start small and build it up over time. I think it's really important to nail the basics of just a simple pop pass where you're not looking to spin the ball, you're just trying to pop it and sit it up on a plate for your teammates. Obviously you'll be able to learn this in training, and you'll probably have coaches or school teachers or whoever it is teaching you or instructing you through your sessions how to do this. But essentially it's a case of where we're not too bothered about where our hands are on the ball. We're simply looking to pop it up nice and short and make it very easy for whoever's receiving the pass to catch it and hopefully carry it into the opposition's defensive line, or to look to make another pass. But I think the main thing is just looking to not be too fancy with it. The best passes in rugby are the ones that are effective. Now, obviously spin passing comes into it, but that's a skill in its own, and that comes with a lot of practice. But in my opinion, you don't need to spin the ball to make it a good or effective pass. It's all about the speed and direction of the ball, which comes through practice and lots of repetition. What you can do is, if you look on the internet, there's something called a rebound ball, which is a really unique tool which I would recommend. It's essentially a rugby ball which has been sliced in half and has a flat edge to it, which you can very easily find a local a park or somewhere that has a wall, or it could even be your own house in the garden. Maybe you've got a wall, or like you can throw it on the side of your house. And essentially when you throw the rugby ball, if you were to throw a normal rugby ball at the wall, it would bounce back in a very awkward position. It wouldn't come back to you. It'd probably roll to the side, or be very unpredictable in the way it reacts. But with a rebound ball, you can throw it at the wall and it comes right back to you due to that flat edge. So that is really useful if you want to start practicing your passing. And just make sure to practice on both hands as well. Practice on your dominant hand and also your non-dominant hand, because you need to be able to distribute the ball both ways of the pitch depending on the situation you are in a game, and you will be expected to be able to do this. And yeah, just practice and practice and practice, and the more you practice the better you're going to get, and you're going to start seeing it pay off in training and in games as well. So really try and nail the basics in terms of your passing. Don't look to be too fancy or extravagant. Nail it down in terms of basics, making those short efficient passes first, and then looking to improve on the distance and the extravagance of your passing. The next thing is tackling. Now obviously tackling is a big part of the game as well. Making sure you know how to not only effectively tackle someone, but in a safe manner as well. You see people, you'll hear stories, or you'll even see it where people get injured due to the fact that they had their neck on the wrong side of the tackle, or they weren't in the correct position. So I definitely recommend speaking to your coaches, or going on the internet as well. There's loads of videos online of people explaining how to tackle correctly, so definitely watch those to educate yourself. But even that, I'd recommend just watching professional rugby players play the game and see how they're tackling. One thing you'll notice is they always try and drop their body weight and get into a nice low powerful position before making that tackle. A very common mistake a lot of beginner players make is tackling way too high and not dropping their body weight. Because if you're going for a player's, sternum or just below, the kind of rib cage area, it may be a lot easier for you as a tackler to actually make contact, but being able to stop the player running at you in their tracks is a lot harder. Whereas if you're dropping your body weight and actually looking to wrap around their legs and stop them in their tracks, it's going to be a lot easier, as no one's able to run without, their legs being able to freely move. So definitely look to drop your body weight in your tackles, look to wrap around the legs or the ankles and stop the player in their tracks. Obviously, if you're able to make a more dominant hit where, you wrap around the legs and you can drive your own feet and push your legs through the tackle to push the opposition back, that's really good as well. But just make sure you're really confident in terms of getting into the right body position, getting your head on the right side of the tackle, and making sure you know how to wrap around and stop the player in their tracks. Like I said, there's many videos available online. You can talk to your coaches, talk to your teachers, or just watch the professionals play the game. But definitely do some research and educate yourself on how the correct tackling form can be applied in your own game. And you can start practicing in contact training sessions that you do out of game time, and then hopefully this can translate really well for when you play on the pitch during games. And the next thing I got on my list is rooking. Now, when I started rugby, I pretty much had no idea what rooking was, and I didn't even know it was part of the game until, it got introduced to me by coaches at school. But rooking is a very big part of the game in terms of, momentum, and, it kind of dictates the tempo of the game as well. I think being able to be confident in the rooks and, be confident in the body positioning you get into is really important. Again, look at what the professionals do in terms of the body positioning that they get into, and I think it's really important as well, if you're looking to clear out a rook, is making sure you start in a nice low position and look to drive upwards. That's a very important thing, and a lot of the best players in the world understand this and execute knowing this is in the back of their mind. Again, look on YouTube, there's loads of videos showing you how to rook, how to clear out a rook, and how to jackal as well. Making sure you have a really good understanding, not just how to perform these certain skills, but understanding the laws of the game as well, in terms of you got to make sure if you're jackling, you're staying on your feet. If you're in the rook, you want to make sure you're not entering from the side, you want to be entering legally. And just there's a lot of grey areas around rooking, so just make sure you've educated yourself, you know what is expected of you and what the referees are looking for as well. Because the worst feeling is putting a lot of effort into a phase in rugby. Let's say it's a rook, for example, and you've committed a penalty, and you've been penalised for it, and having no idea what you've done. That's the worst feeling. And if you're able to educate yourself and be aware of the do's and don'ts, then when it comes to game time, you're going to be a lot more confident, not only in the fact of what you're doing, but the fact that you know what you're doing, and you're aware of the rules, and making sure that all the actions you do decide to take forward in, you know what you're doing and it's all legal. That's the most important thing as well. You want to stay well disciplined. The next thing is fitness. Now, I don't need to tell you this, guys, but fitness is a very important part of rugby. You got to be somewhat of an athlete to be an effective and successful rugby player, and that goes all the way down from grassroots level all the way up into the professional game. You need to make sure that you're not undermining how important your recovery is and your nutrition as well as your fitness, but just making sure you stay mobile. You want to keep moving throughout the week, making sure that you're topping up on your fitness. You can go out for runs, work on your cardio. If you want to go in the gym and perform, cardio machines, exercise bikes are really good. The row machine as well, just to, put your cardiovascular strength to the test and really building up your stamina over time. It's going to make your life a lot easier on the rugby field, as you're going to be able to get around the park quicker, you're going to be involved in more phases, and you're ultimately going to have a bigger role to play in your team's success on the field, which is what every rugby player should be aiming to do and achieve. So yeah, just make sure that you're being accountable of yourself. Try and eat good food, work on your nutrition as well, because that obviously coincides with your fitness levels. If you're eating junk food all the time, it's not going to be it's not going to be great in terms of translating well into a good performance in terms of your fitness ability on the pitch. So make sure both of those areas of your game are being looked after. And again, if you're unsure on certain fitness drills you can be doing, YouTube has so many different drills out there that you can be doing in terms of working your fitness. A good few that I'd recommend that I do myself is just looking to do some mid-distance running, like between 3 to 5 kilometers, just to keep the cardio and keep the cardiovascular strength ticking, and making sure you're getting a lot of mileage on the feet, and the body can get used to this. But then also, for example, you can do circuit runs, broken broncos, just making sure that you're really putting the body through its paces, but not to the point where you're gassed out. Just make sure you're topping up and making sure your fitness levels aren't dropping. And then the final thing I've got in here is actually a bit of a more niche one, and that's communication. Obviously, as we all know, rugby is a team sport. It's you and 14 other players on that field, and it's really important that you understand what communication is and what a good communicator looks like. I think it's very easy for players to undermine this and underlook this, because the fact that being a good communicator is so vital actually leads to players sometimes undermining it, due to the fact that it is a very tough aspect of the game to master. If you're naturally a shy person and you're someone who isn't very confident, or you may not be the most outgoing, it can be hard to communicate, especially when there might be bigger, louder characters within a team, within a change room. But I think it's important just to recognize the appropriate times when you need to be a good communicator. On the field, you've got to be able to talk, understand what's going on in terms of the game scenario, but you also got to be aware of what's going on, what's going to be happening next as well, and that all comes from reading the game and also communicating. But alongside that as well, I think it's very important. Let's say you're new to rugby, you've joined a new club, you want to be able to engage and socialize as well. So try and make the effort to get to know your new teammates, hang out with them. I'm sure there'll be social events within a club environment that you can attend, get involved, and the more you give in, the more you're going to get out. And I think the most important part of rugby is enjoying it, and a lot of that comes from social interactions and communicating and talking to people, learning about people's experiences and backgrounds and how rugby's played a part in their life is very interesting in my opinion. And if you're able to communicate well off the pitch, more times than likely you're going to be able to translate that really well onto the field. And the best rugby experiences that I've had personally have come from playing with teammates who I would consider friends, and really bonding and having good chemistry on and off the field. That makes for a really good, successful team environment in my opinion. And if you're able to contribute to that by being a good communicator on and off the field, it's going to make not only your life easier but also your teammates as well. So make sure you're working on your communication skills, practice talking to new people, and make sure that you're able to communicate and relay information when it matters most. So those are my 5 main pointers that I would recommend to any person who's new to rugby. I hope you found some of this insight useful and you're going to be able to apply it to your own game. With that being said, guys, I just want to remind you to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. If you have made it to the end of this video, do leave it a like to let me know that I've done a good job. And with that being said, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.